Hello, this is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Please hit that like button, share the video, and subscribe. Well, there was a little bit of drama last night in the Nancy Guthrie case. There was some scanner audio that talked about a grave being next to the Christina Taylor Green Memorial River Park next to the YMCA, which is right over here. And, officers showed up. Let me play the scanner audio.
On 1016, the watch area of Christina Green Memorial, I do see a large shrub. Looks like there's somewhat of a grave next to a shovel. If I could ask some units 45 me down here.
162, what's your location again? And just stay put.
I mean, they take it really seriously, and but I was thinking to myself, why would somebody leave a shovel next to it?
Christina Green Memorial, just west of the YMCA.
173, be careful, radio traffic, please. Our brother Bill can hear us.
We'll be around to that.
162. Just get 1060, but do not go to him. Just stay on the outside of the area. And 162 is going to be a negative. Everybody can go back.
So they cleared it. Somebody said it's going to be negative. Everybody can go back to what they were doing, basically. And I don't think it's, I don't think there was anything there. Now, maybe there's more to it. I don't know, but it seems like at the very end it was cleared. And that's all I got on that. Okay, but there was high drama out there, but it seems like they pretty much cleared the area. All right, so the next thing I was going to talk about is my theory on how things went down that night. I don't know what the motive is. That's something we're all just kind of wondering about. There's a whole bunch of different types of motives, and different things. Could be a ransom for hire gone wrong. It could be a break-in to the home, and that went wrong, and they for some reason took her out of there. There's all kinds of different things. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to tell you how I think it went down timeline-wise. But before we get to that, let's take a look at the surveillance footage here again. And we see this at the front door. See that? And, it looks like he's trying to do something with the doorbell camera. And then he goes over and grabs a little plant of some sort. Looks like he's trying to balance it on there to block the view, etc. And he's got a light in his mouth there. And then there's this shot right here. So on the JLR channel, he got a super chat from somebody, and it mentioned that image that you see right there, it says, I'm friends with Tucson police cop. We had friends in Pima Sheriff Department. They are ones who revealed doorbell pic with no backpack is from January 11th. Now, if you remember, January 11th is the same date that law enforcement originally came out with, that they wanted footage between, I think they said, like 9 and 11 p.m. on the 11th and I think the 31st, if I remember correctly. And then they changed it for the whole month. I think they realized that was too specific. And so maybe this image right here, it's possible, if that's a true statement by whoever sent that super chat, then that this is actually from January 11th. We aren't going to get to know that until law enforcement tells us that, but it doesn't change my timeline information. I always thought this footage was before the camera was removed anyways. All right, so let's go down to Nancy Guthrie's home here. So based on the time it takes Nancy to drive from her house to her daughter's home, which is about 10, 11 minutes or so, she probably left her house in Uber at around 5:32. All right, and then around 5:42, she would make it over to Annie Guthrie's home here. Then they sat around and, they ate dinner, played mahjong. So right around, 10:38, 10:37, Tommaso and Nancy get into, whatever car they used and drove her back home, not using the Uber. And he drove her back home, and likely he drove home and then pulls into here, and then at 9:48, the garage door opens. And then maybe he walked Nancy in, And there's probably a door inside here that goes into the main part of the house, like all garages have. And then when she goes into there, he would then go out this direction and then probably hit the little button that shuts the garage door. Now, when people thought that they were involved, perhaps while he was in the garage, he would go out this side door here or unlock it from inside and then go out, and then the garage door would shut at 9:50. And then later on, somebody else who went there could climb over the fence and get through the unlocked door. That would have been the theory when the family was involved, but apparently they've been cleared, although, again, the sheriff said, well, we haven't charged them with anything yet, or we haven't named them as suspects yet. So he sort of has backtracked on even the clearing of the family member's comment. It's absolutely crazy. That guy needs some PR advice for sure. All right, so 9:50 or so, Nancy's in the home, and law enforcement knows that Nancy is at home because her cell phone is at home. And they know that she's next to the cell phone because her pacemaker is connected to the cell phone and via her watch and cell phone. So they know that she's at home. So when people say, how do we even know she made it home? They know that she made it home. And if they knew that she didn't make it home, based on that information, the cell phone data, they would already have arrested Annie's husband, because that would show that she never made it home from the drive home that he claims he took her home. Okay, so she did make it home. And they know that she was at home and the pacemaker was connected. And even at 1:47. All right, so let's just say that photograph without the backpack, it could either be just prior or it was days before. It doesn't really matter. So let's just jump into so at 1:47, we know that the camera was disconnected from the front door. So let's just assume that maybe he drove into the area and parked down the street somewhere, maybe back on a side street, off the main road. And when I say main road, I mean the road that Nancy lives on. Could have even parked off any one of these little side areas, even in here, perhaps. But I don't think he parked at the house. And that would be like at 1:40 or so when he gets in the area. Then he walks over here. Then we see him messing around. I would imagine that's probably 1:45, 1:46 or so. And then he breaks the camera off. So on Megyn Kelly's show, she actually had her producer purchase that very same type of camera, and this is what he explained.
Okay, Megan, I've installed the Nest doorbell camera on our door to the garage here.
And what's interesting is it comes with a little tab, just a little flat
tab, almost like a tip of a screwdriver, really.
And that's how you remove it from the top. So you just push down and it clicks right off, sort of. There it goes.
Yeah, as I was discussing last night on the show, there's a little area at the top where you just need to push in and then you can take it off. But this shows the whole thing.
So it pulls right off that way, and that's how you take it off to charge it, because it is battery powered. It needs to be charged every so often. There's no wires here. And you'll see this plate looks exactly like the one that you see on the house at Nancy Guthrie's house and all the
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely the same.
News videos.
So it's the same model. And to put it back, you just click it on the base after you've charged the battery, and it's there.
And the question is, how do you get it off without the tab? And I was excited because you said we could smash this if we wanted to, and you'd pay for it. But you don't need to do that. You actually, just with a little bit of force, you can pull it right off. And the base is still there, undamaged.
So that's probably exactly how it was removed. Because, if you're not aware of exactly where the little tab is that you press in on that Ring camera, you wouldn't know how to take it off. You would just rip it off, and look how easy that was to take that off.
And actually this camera is still recording, so if I take...
I thought this part was interesting. That means even after he removed it from the area, I guess maybe it doesn't have internal storage, so it would still be connected to the Wi-Fi, but this portion here, after he removed it, still would have been on camera.
Take this and throw it or put it in my bag, it's still going to be recording for a little bit longer. So I got to think there's still video of that they haven't recovered that might show a different angle of things that we haven't seen.
There's no evidence that it was damaged on the front porch, so my guess is it was just taken out of Wi-Fi range, and that's why it disconnected. Or they could have turned her Wi-Fi off. But taking it off the base, like I just did, does not disconnect it in any way. It's still capturing.
Right, so the base there is really just to hold the camera. But once it's moved too far out of range from the Wi-Fi, then it's not going to be recording any video to put out on the cloud that then Google could then back engineer to turn into a video because the subscription hadn't been paid. All right, and if we just compare it to this, you can see, maybe that's what they're actually trying to do there at that point. He put his top of his hand on top of it. Maybe he was going to try to pry it. And then he thought, okay, I'll just go grab some weeds over here, maybe put that on top of it, and perhaps that'll block the view. But then that fell on the ground, as we see in some images and video out there. You can see the actual weeds on the ground in Brian Enton's video, and then some other photographs that have been taken. And I think even in here, right there, you can see the weeds on the ground. Just below where the Ring camera was. There it is right there. All right. So now let's get back to this timeline. So he probably gets into here about 1:45 or so. We know that he probably parked his car somewhere else. This is my opinion. And then he goes in there and he finally disconnects it at 1:47. But after you disconnect the camera and you've caused a little bit of commotion just doing that, perhaps it set off an alarm, set off a notification to somebody, you wouldn't want to go right into the house at that point. I think he went back to maybe near where his car was, or just kind of walked into an area and sort of waited for 20 minutes or so to see if police would show up. And it's pitch black out there. He saw no lights coming. There were no sirens. There were no anything at all. So after waiting 20 minutes and perhaps, walking around up here, he goes back and he gets his car. And when he gets his car, he drives it into the driveway here and parks it right there. And that's exactly why he had to remove this camera and disconnect it from the network, because he knows that it would record his car pretty close up, the make and model, etc. All right. So he pulls his car up right here. Then he walks around the back. But as he walked around right here at 2:12, a camera right here recorded his motion. It could have been this one too, but I actually think it was this camera. That's the one that we saw law enforcement on the roof dealing with. I think that camera picked up the motion at 2:12. And I believe it was an outdoor camera, because at one of the press conferences, the sheriff, to the dismay of the FBI agent behind him, when asked about that motion, he said, yeah, it recorded a person, or I guess it could have been an animal. And then the FBI agent looked at him, because the FBI agent knew that that was a clue to let people know that that was actually an outdoor camera. I mean, why would it be a raccoon, a cougar, a coyote running around inside of her house? So it was likely an outdoor camera right here at 2:12 that picked them up. These floodlights that were right here were destroyed. Now, when those were destroyed, I don't know. In that same super chat to JLR, it mentioned that perhaps that's when the floodlights were broken. But you would think that would be way too early to break the floodlights. Somebody would have noticed something like that. Perhaps Nancy would have went there, or anybody else that had gone over to the house would have seen those broken. So I doubt that that is a reality, but definitely possible. So, he goes inside the home here, and then for 15 minutes or so is dealing with Nancy. And then he takes Nancy out the front door, I think at gunpoint, but obviously there was a physical altercation inside the home because Nancy is bleeding. And as I pointed out first on my YouTube channel, the day the video was released, that this right here is expirated blood. That there was a coughing situation. Could have been a sneeze, whatever, but there's blood dripping, and this is stationary based on the shape of the blood droplets here. All right, so when Nancy's being brought out, she could have been sort of hunched over, or maybe she was, some people think maybe she was fireman carried over the shoulder of this person, and she was, was low enough to the ground to cough. ChatGPT said that this was between 8 and 24 inches off the ground, which is, if you bent over and cough like that, that could be something you did too. It's not really relevant. The part that's relevant is that she was alive when exiting that home. So that does give you some hope that she's possibly still alive out there. But then he takes Nancy out of the front of the home, and that's when her pacemaker quit connecting to her cell phone and also via her watch. They put her into the vehicle that was right here, and we don't know what type of vehicle it was because the camera was removed. Interestingly, though, if he still had the camera on him, it's still recording stuff, perhaps even on the cloud, but it would be in a pocket or something like that. And maybe there's audio associated with it. That would be an incredible clue because he's close enough to the residence where it might still connect to the Wi-Fi. So there might be a ton of footage during that entire time. So here's the thing. The camera was removed at 1:47. And then if he stored the camera anywhere near this home for a while, all of that would have been sent to the cloud also. And they're going to have to do that back engineering stuff. But especially when he showed back up, if he still had it on him in his backpack or something, it might still record audio, and then it would be like dark video, but the audio portion would be incredibly useful while he's inside that house. Wouldn't that be incredible if that has been recorded? Now, I think this was an intentional abduction of Nancy Guthrie. What the reason for it is, I don't know. It never turned into a ransom situation. It might be that she succumbed to her injuries before they were able to ask for anything and could never show proof of life and just kind of want to sort of wash their hands of the situation and disappear. That could be the situation. But yeah, that Ring camera that was removed might provide a hell of a lot more clues than we originally thought. All right, well, I hope you guys found that video interesting. I love looking into this kind of stuff, and I think that's pretty much exactly how it went down. 1:47, he shows up here. He walks away for a while, disappears to wait to see if law enforcement shows up, then gets his car, pulls it up here to minimize the amount of time that the car is actually parked near the home, then goes through the back, picked up on the camera right there, and then goes inside the house, and then is dealing with Nancy inside the home, and then her pacemaker quits connecting to her phone at 2:28 because her phone and watch are in her bedroom, and that means her pacemaker is too far away from the devices to keep communicating with it. So at 2:28 is likely about the time she's being put into the car and driven away. Yeah, so some really interesting things to think about. So let me know in the comments what you think. But I think I've accounted for all the facts that we have in putting together this timeline here. It explains why there's such this huge gap of 41 minutes. I don't think he was inside the house for 41 minutes. I think he was inside the house for 16 minutes or less. All right, so thank you all very much for watching the video. If you could hit that like button for me, I'd appreciate it. Share the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching, and as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.